Hi, everyone. The theme of our conversation today is symmetry, a Greek word that comes from the prefix syn, which means together, μαζί, and metron, which is roughly measurement. Symmetry is a word that defines the quality of similarity or balance in terms of a specific axis or a specific reference point. It means that it exists, this balance exists when two or more parts are together and have the same metron, the same proportions. It is kind of agreement in dimensions, due proportion, arrangement. It is something that we find in everyday life. It exists in the universe, and it is defined by specific cosmological laws. At its core, symmetry means that something stays the same under certain transformations, translation, reflection, etc. And for example, a circle looks the same if you rotate it by any angle. Here we speak about rotational symmetry, or a butterfly's wings. Butterfly's wings are like mirror images. This is a very good example of reflective symmetry. So let's keep these beautiful words in mind. Balance, harmony, because of symmetry. In physics and cosmology, symmetry is a fundamental principle that underpins the laws of nature and the structure of the universe. It's more than just pretty patterns. It's about invariance and conservation. Invariance is a physical, to understand invariance, any physical system behaves the same under some change, like shifting in time or space, or flipping coordinates. Conservation laws, according to Newton's theorem by the mathematician Emmy Noether, every symmetry corresponds to a conservation law. For example, time symmetry corresponds to the conservation of energy, and the space symmetry corresponds to the conservation of momentum. The larger scale universe shows symmetries. For example, it looks roughly the same in all directions, presents kind of isotropy, and at all locations, kind of homogeneity. This is the cosmological principle, a symmetry assumption crucial for cosmological models. At a microscopic level, particle physics is built on symmetry principles, like gauge symmetries, which dictate how particles interact via fundamental forces. Interestingly, symmetry breaking is as important as symmetry itself. Early in the universe, perfect symmetries broke, creating diversity, different forces, different particles, different structures emerged because of this. Many cosmological laws can be understood as expressions of symmetry. The conservation of total energy in the universe, or the uniformity of cosmic microwave background radiation, or the forces, the laws of physics, natural laws, are the same everywhere and across time. Why does symmetry matter cosmologically? Symmetry provides predictable patterns and predictable laws that don't change arbitrarily. It hints at a deeper unity behind the universe's apparent complexity and diversity. Through symmetry breaking, the universe evolves from single uniform states, one, to rich complex structures like galaxies, stars, life, many, from one to many. Symmetry as a cosmological law means that the universe follows principles of balance and invariance that shape everything from energy conservation to the formation of cosmic structures. It's a cosmic blueprint underlying order in the cosmos, yet allowing for the rich diversity we see. And here we see that both parts are necessary. Symmetry, stability, invariance, being, and uh, mm, symmetry breaking, which is differentiation, diversity, creativity, complexity, identity, unique, variety. So we see that these two perhaps are reflections, perhaps linked. Let's speak a little bit more about symmetry breaking. Imagine the early universe as a perfectly smooth, uniform soup. Everything the same, everywhere, perfectly symmetrical. Symmetry breaking happens when the perfect symmetry breaks or shifts into a state that is less symmetrical but more complex. Think of a spinning top standing perfectly balanced on its top, perfect symmetry. Once it starts to fall, it picks a direction, the symmetry is broken. Keep this, starts to fall and picks a direction. The universe started in a highly symmetrical state, 1, but ended up full of stars, galaxies, planets, life. Very asymmetrical, rich in structure. We usually say from chaos everything emerged. Perhaps this is a second stage. From one, chaos emerged. And from chaos, all things emerged. Symmetry breaking explains the transition from uniformity to complexity. Early in the Big Bang, two fundamental forces, electromagnetic and weak nuclear, were unified. One symmetrical force. As the universe cooled, this symmetry broke, and the electromagnetic force and weak force separated. Particles like W and Z bosons gained mass. This breaking gave particles mass, enabling matter to form atoms, molecules, and eventually life. There are two kinds of symmetry breaking. Spontaneous symmetry breaking and external symmetry breaking. Spontaneous symmetry breaking takes place when inner forces, internal forces, lead or take to this stage of symmetry breaking, while the external or imposed symmetry breaking is when this symmetry breaks because outer factors or forces intervene. Similar to water freezing into ice, the universe went through phase transitions as it expanded and cooled. Each phase transition broke some symmetry, changing how particles and forces behaved. These now broken symmetries seeded tiny fluctuations in the early universe's energy distribution. Those fluctuations grew into stars, galaxies, clusters, the cosmic web of structure. The small, which is huge. So, is the small small? What is the relation of small and big? Or is the small part of the big? Reflect on these interconnections. But let's go back to the Big Bang story and the universe. You have heard the word inflation, the rapid expansion phase very early after the Big Bang. Inflation smoothed out the universe, but also created tiny quantum fluctuations. When inflation ended, these fluctuations were frozen, kind of symmetry breaking, which became the seeds for all cosmic structure. Again, look at the pair: flow, movement, frozen. Symmetry laws tell us what could be the same everywhere, always. But symmetry breaking shows us how differences and diversity emerges. The universe's laws contain potential symmetries, and the history of the universe is the story of how and when those symmetries were broken. Imagine a perfectly round hilltop. That is symmetry. Then a marble balanced at the top can roll down any side. The symmetry is perfect at the peak, top, and the moment it rolls down a particular slope, symmetry is broken. The marble chooses a direction, and the choice leads to unique outcomes, new patterns, and variety. Parenthesis. No matter when, prenatally, postnatally, gestation, now, whenever, people are like that. We find ourselves balanced somewhere, then for whatever inner or outer reason, we make a decision to move towards a specific direction. We lose a symmetry and we move away from symmetry, choosing a direction, and this directionality takes us to a new reality, a new outcome, a new way of life, a new experience. We could perhaps decide this or that direction. And the question is, what is it that tells us which direction to choose and break the symmetry that existed at a specific space-time to become what? To gain what? Wisdom or just experience? But we'll come back to that. Without symmetry breaking, there'd be no stars, no planets, no life, no Olga, not you. Just uniform emptiness. It's the cosmic decision-making process that shapes the universe. This concept ties deeply into the nature of time, change, and emergence. So, perhaps it would be interesting to keep track of what decisions we make every moment. Symmetry represents order, balance, unity in the cosmos. It's like the universal language that nature uses to write its laws, and deeper harmony underline all things. Many philosophical traditions see this harmony as the foundation of beauty, truth, and coherence in reality. Yet, perfect symmetry is static and uniform, a state of pure potential but no differentiation. Symmetry breaking is the act of creation, of differentiation, of becoming. Be and becoming. It's the cosmic birth of uniqueness and diversity, the way the universe expresses novelty from unity. The interplay between symmetry and symmetry breaking, unity and diversity can be seen as a fundamental dynamic of existence, perhaps the first dance. It echoes in nature, from the formation of galaxies to biological evolution to human consciousness. And this balance allows the universe to be both coherent and ever-changing. What a beautiful paradox. Symmetry breaking introduces irreversibility and directionality. This is how time's arrow emerges. It explains how the universe moves from a timeless, symmetrical state, full of potentiality, to a dynamic, evolving reality. This flow from unity to multiplicity mirrors many philosophical ideas about creation and transformation. On a personal or existential level, this cosmic dance can symbolize our own journeys of growth. The tension between order and chaos, the emergence of individuality from wholeness, the unfolding of potential into concrete experience. It invites a view of life as a creative unfolding where moments of breaking symmetry, change, challenge, transformation are the seeds of growth and new possibilities. Under this light, perhaps now we can revisit elegant or poetic stories that speak about unity uh, in me, connection with the one, the value of identity, why we are unique, why everything in creation is unique. And it's not just because there is some kind of vague value that exists in one and the other, but it corresponds, it is linked with cosmological laws that speak another language, the language of being and becoming, of me in all, in the whole, in one, and the one in me. It perhaps it is time to revisit and reflect on me being a spark of the divine, poetic word or phrase that sounds very, very uh, philosophical or perhaps not uh, down to earth, but it is hard mathematics and physics spoken in the language of art. We can also, under these circumstances, we can also reflect again about the timeless and the spaceless, considered to be qualities of the divine or of consciousness. And perhaps we can reflect on the idea of the temporary, the short time we live on earth, perhaps then symmetry breaking again to lead to more variety, etc. So there are very interesting questions to explore. Recognizing symmetry and its breaking as cosmic principles has got huge power because it can link scientific understanding of the universe and the cosmos and life with philosophical insights into existence, perhaps integrating artistic expressions of an inner wisdom that is also innate wisdom as it is connected to the initial source. Symmetry is the universe's blueprint of order and harmony, while symmetry breaking is the creative impulse that births complexity, change, life itself. Together, they express a cosmic rhythm, a sacred dance between eternal unity and vibrant diversity. Perhaps it is time to see what the philosophers said about symmetry. Plato, in his work Timaeus, describes the cosmos as a perfect, harmonious, and symmetrical whole created by a divine craftsman, Demiurgos. The universe's order is based on mathematical and geometric principles reflecting eternal truth and beauty. Symmetry, he says, embodies cosmic order and perfection. The universe is a living, balanced organism. In his words, the world was created as a single living creature containing all living creatures within it. Hermann Weyl, in his book Symmetry in 1952, explores symmetry as a fundamental principle underlying physics and mathematics, and he argues that the laws of nature can be understood through symmetric groups, making symmetry the backbone of physical laws. His insight is that symmetry is not just aesthetic, it's a foundational law shaping the behavior of the universe. In his words, symmetry is the idea by which man, through the ages, has tried to comprehend and create order, beauty, and perfection. Ilya Prigogine, in his work Order Out of Chaos in 1984, studies how complex systems arise from chaotic states through dissipative structures. Symmetry breaking is the key process that allows new order and complexity to emerge in far from equilibrium systems like the cosmos of life or life. His insight, in short, is that complexity and life emerge through processes that break symmetry, moving from chaos to structured order. In his words, he says, we must abandon the ideal of a world which is at rest in perfect order and embrace a world in which order arises out of chaos. Lee Smolin, in his book The Life of the Cosmos in 1997, proposes that the universe evolves through processes that include symmetry breaking, driving cosmic evolution and diversification. This cosmic natural selection favors universes capable of complexity and life. Symmetry breaking, he says, is a cosmic mechanism for generating new structures and possibilities. In his words, symmetry breaking is the process by which the universe generates complexity and the structure from simplicity. Years earlier than him, Alfred North Whitehead, in his monumental book, Process and Reality, in his process philosophy, views reality as an ongoing process of becoming, balancing unity, order, and novelty, change, and symmetry corresponds to order, but the universe constantly breaks symmetry to allow creativity and new forms. The universe is a dynamic interplay between order and creativity, symmetry and its breaking. The many, in his words, the many become one and are increased by one. Are increased by one. Gilles Deleuze, in his book Difference and Repetition in 1968, explores how difference and repetition are fundamental to creation and identity. Symmetry represents identity and sameness, while difference, breaking symmetry, generates novelty and creativity. Creative difference arises by breaking identity and symmetry, enabling new possibilities. In his words, difference is the positive, productive source of all creation. Arthur Eddington, back in 1928, in his book The Nature of the Physical World, discusses the arrow of time, the idea that time moves in one direction due to irreversible processes linked to entropy increase. Symmetry breaking introduces irreversibility into time's flow. Symmetry breaking underpins the directionality of time and change in the cosmos. In his words, time's arrow is the direction of increasing entropy and broken symmetry. Carlo Rovelli, in his book in 2018, The Order of Time, explains modern physics' view that time emerges from quantum processes, including symmetry breaking at the microscopic level. Time is not fundamental, but arises from underlying quantum states. Time and its flow, he says, arise from symmetry breaking in quantum processes. In his words, time is not one thing, but many different things that emerge from the quantum world. Everybody knows Joseph Campbell and his monumental book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in 1949. His monomyth explores the hero's transformative journey, living order, symmetry, and entering chaos, breaking symmetry, to emerge transformed. This mythic structure reflects universal human growth and creativity. He sees personal and collective transformation and metaphorical symmetry breaking, leading to new life. In his words, he says, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." In 2000, Ken Wilber formulated the theory of everything. Wilber integrates science, philosophy, and spirituality into a model of human development, emphasizing the unfolding from unity, symmetry, to diversity, broken symmetry, across multiple dimensions. He suggests that human and cosmic development unfold through a balance of unity and differentiation. In his words, growth is the unfolding of unity into diversity and back into unity on a higher level. Capra, in 1975, in his book The Tao of Physics, finds deep parallels between modern physics and the Eastern mystical transitions, both revealing harmony, symmetry, and the transformation, symmetry breaking, as foundational cosmic principles. He suggests that science and spirituality converge on the concepts of cosmic harmony and creative change. In his words, the patterns that connect science and spirituality are patterns of wholeness and change. And David Bohm, in his book Wholeness and the Implicate Order in 1980, presents a holistic view of reality where an implicate order, hidden symmetry, enfolds all things. The explicate order we perceive arises through processes analogous to symmetry breaking, revealing diversity from unity. Reality unfolds through processes that break underlying symmetries to manifest the world of forms. In his words, the whole is enfolded in every part like a hologram. Perhaps now, ideas like me and the other is the same. I am in the other is in me. All both are part, are reflections, are enfoldments of the one, all serving something quite significant, perhaps now, can be seen under these lenses. It is important to bear in mind this little detail as well. Now we have understood what symmetry breaking is. And you already heard that there are two types, spontaneous symmetry breaking and explicit symmetry breaking. Spontaneous symmetry breaking is when the system's underlying laws are symmetric, but the state of the system is not. For example, Higgs mechanism in particle physics, while the explicit symmetry breaking is when external factors break the symmetry. Perhaps it is a good moment now to reflect how this symmetry breaking takes place in our life or in our body. Is it a spontaneous symmetry breaking? Or is it an explicit symmetry breaking? Could we say, another question, that one is okay, the other is not? Can we re-examine these interventions in health systems, educational systems, social systems, etc., etc.? Can we also reflect on what is the duration of symmetry during the day in our thoughts, etc., etc.? What are the forces that try to maintain symmetry in us at whatever point, or fight symmetry breaking? Perhaps also it is time to see why we do not like entropy sometimes. Why we try to avoid or inertia or resistance. What is the role of both these forces? Can we blame or favor one of them? Can we say that we are in service of symmetry, which also means we are enemies of symmetry breaking, or vice versa? Is there a dilemma like that? Etc., etc. Perhaps it is a good moment here to explore how these deep cosmological symmetries and symmetry breaking underpin fundamental aspects of life, and how they may manifest in human development from conception to childhood, drawing parallels to Gauge and Lorentz symmetry where manifold. In the biological reality of conception, which is the initiation of a new field of order, the sperm and egg each have the half of genetic code, and they, sperm and egg, merge at the moment of conception. At that moment, a new diploid zygote is formed, a unity of two asymmetrical gametes into one symmetrical genome. The restoration of wholeness takes place. The zygote is symmetrical at first division, cleavage. There is a spatiotemporal symmetry in the early mitotic divisions. The zygote acts like a new field, much like a gauge field is created in particle physics, maintaining internal order and laws. Like the unified field in early cosmology, the zygote embodies potential, holding symmetrical possibilities that will be broken and differentiated over time. The inner and outer axis, polarity, and initial geometry reflect Lorentz-like spatial invariance. The embryo is not biased until symmetry is broken by the environment or internal processes. But I use the words Gauge's symmetry and Lorentz symmetry. Let me explain what they mean. Gauge's symmetry, internal symmetries in forces, means that certain hidden transformations of fields like electric or quantum fields do not change physical predictions. These symmetries require the existence of force-carrying particles. Electromagnetism comes from U1 gauge symmetry that leads to photons. Weak and strong nuclear forces come from more complex gauge symmetries. The standard model of particle physics is built on gauge symmetry. All known forces, gravity is an exception so far, but all other known forces arise from gauge symmetry. And what about Lorentz symmetry? Lorentz symmetry is what could also be, in short, described as space-time symmetry. What it means is that the laws of physics are the same for all observers moving at constant speeds, even if they are moving relative to each other. Time and space are not fixed. They stretch and contract depending on how fast we are moving. Mass and energy are related. Energy is mass multiplies E is mc to the second power. Speed of light is a universal constant, and it shows up in Einstein's special and general relativity, and in our everyday life. Our GPS systems work based on this Lorentz symmetry. So back to the example of what happens at conception. At conception, we have two gametes, asymmetry. Then the zygote becomes a whole, symmetry, and then the process takes us to differentiations and asymmetries. During gestation, symmetry breaking enables differentiation. The embryo, or the first emergence of self, differentiates into germ layers, organs, limbs. Then the left-right asymmetry appears. For example, the heart tilts to one side. And as the process continues, depending on forces at play, we have the neural tube formation, lip buds, face, body axis, all involve breaking initial symmetry. Spontaneous symmetry breaking, just like how forces differentiated after the Big Bang, the embryo begins with symmetry, but must break it to become unique, just as the cosmos had to break its uniformity to allow stars, galaxies, and life. The morphogenetic fields in embryology behave like goat fields, directing development, maintaining relationships, shaping form. Field-based regulation and patterning resemble how forces in physics operate through symmetry principles. Gravity, pressure, orientation in the womb relate to reference frames, Lorentz symmetry, shaping posture, tone, spatial development. At birth, we can see the reorientation and renegotiation of symmetry. Birth is a traumatic environmental shift. The newborn must establish new physiological balances, for example, breathing, temperature, gravity. Postural symmetry and bilateral movement begin anew in an open space. A new reference frame is entered, like switching space-time coordinates. The baby learns to orient in gravitational space, an external symmetry field, through vestibular and sensory feedback. Birth is not a rupture, but a change of symmetry frame from fluid-supported gestation to air gravity dynamics. Just as in relativity, the child must now form self-stability in new motion fields. The neonatal nervous system searches for homeostasis and symmetry in breathing, heartbeat, posture, and little by little we go to childhood, which can be seen as the integration of symmetry and complexity. Movement becomes coordinated, crawling, walking, writing later on. The hemispheres of the brain develop differentiated even more, yet integrated. Right, left, logic, emotion, etc. And social, emotional, and cognitive and other layers develop in interplay. Functional asymmetry emerges within a bilateral frame. The body is symmetrical, but functions are asymmetrically specialized. Learning, language, play, emotion all reflect the balance between structure and innovation, stability and creativity, change, the dance of symmetry and symmetry breaking. This stage is like the formation of galaxies from quantum fields, stable patterns forming through dynamic relational processes. The brain's ability to mirror and anticipate others' behavior may reflect field-like social symmetries like resonance in physics. But let's see, why? Why are these things important happen? Is there any entelechy? Let's look at the word entelechy. Greek word, Aristotelian word, en, in, telos, purpose, completion, nine, end, echid, have, hold, which is that which is fully realized, the inner potential already present within a being that moves it, the being moves it toward its full form. Let's see the role of symmetry and symmetry breaking as a servant of entelechy. Symmetry is the scaffold of becoming. From the moment of conception, symmetry gives form to potential. It does not impose identity, it enables it. Which means, if it does not impose identity, is there identity that pre-exists and which is enabled? Question for reflection. Bilateral symmetry in the embryo allows for the unfolding of complex systems, left-right brain, limbs, organs. It is not just about shape, but about balance, distribution, timing. Symmetry creates a field of possibility within which individuation happens. It is the visible architecture of the invisible telos, purpose, completion, end. Symmetry holds tension, and tension awakens purpose. perfect symmetry is rarely preserved, and that is not a bad thing. In growth, asymmetry arises. The heart shifts left, the liver right. This deviation is not a breakdown, but an expression of the entelechy, the self-distinguishing of the being. Symmetry serves as the starting point, the ground from which uniqueness arises. The organism does not aim to be symmetric, it aims to become itself. And symmetry makes that becoming structurally possible. Symmetry is the tension field within which purpose finds its axis. Symmetry is the law of recognition, the mirror of wholeness. In prenatal life, the prenate develops in resonance with inner and outer fields. The developing being mirrors and is mirrored by the placenta, the uterine environment, the mother's body, the family structures, the social systems, the cultural and historical systems. In this layered mirroring, symmetry allows the prenate to organize self-awareness, spatial sense, movement, and existence in space. Symmetry does not tell the being who to become. It provides the grammar of becoming. Entelechy speaks in the language of form, and symmetry is the first alphabet each one of us learns. In short, symmetry serves entelechy by offering a template guiding the fulfillment of the entelechy. Symmetry provides balance and orientation and directs differentiation, which will complete the specific purpose. Symmetry enables relational coherence and fuels individual purpose. And symmetry begins as mirroring and ends in becoming. As Aristotle says, the soul's purpose becomes body through the law of symmetry. If Aristotle could use this law. If there were no symmetry in the cosmos, in life, in ourselves, the consequences would be profound and far-reaching. No symmetry in cosmos, no order. Symmetry is foundational to the laws of nature. Conservation laws like energy, momentum, change exist because of symmetry. Without these symmetries, the laws of physics would vary unpredictably across time and space. No symmetry, no constants. No constants, no stable matter, no stars, no chemistry, no life. A universe where the left side of an atom behaves differently from the right, or gravity pulls differently depending on direction, or light has no consistent speed. As a result, the universe would be unpatterned, unstable, possibly never forming galaxies or atoms at all, as we know it. Perhaps there is another possibility we have not even conceived as existing, in which no symmetry exists, and all this happen. In life, no symmetry means no organism. Life begins in symmetry and grows by gently breaking this symmetry. Without symmetry, no front and back, up or down, left and right, thus no orientation, no ability to differentiate limbs, organ systems, and the embryonic development would collapse, as it requires symmetry to organize space and sequence. A being without symmetry cannot differentiate itself from its environment, cannot be a body, or it cannot be. Being and becoming. In neurobiology and sensory systems, the brain depends on bilateral symmetry. Sensory input must be integrated from two sides. Motor coordination requires left to right balance. Without it, no perception of self in space, no coordination, no internal balance, no coherent identity. Without symmetry, the organism becomes disoriented chaos. No selfhood, no knowing or realization of being within space-time. In humans, no symmetry means no recognition, no beauty, no meaning. We recognize others and ourselves through symmetry, in faces, in gestures, in a resonance. Beauty and harmony arise from balanced patterns. Music, dance, language, storytelling all rely on symmetric forms, rhythm, repetition, mirror. Without symmetry, no music, no rhythm, no art, no mirror neurons, no empathy. A human without symmetry could not connect or make sense of the world. Now, we could go on for hours, but perhaps it is time for us to stop. And it doesn't matter what our service to humanity is, parents, psychotherapists, medicals or health professionals, social workers, historians, sociologists, etc., scientists of any kind, use this information on symmetry and symmetry breaking and reflect on what cosmos is, what I am, what my relationships serve. And I mean the relations not just human to human, but also human to animals or plants and human to planet. Look at these relations under the lens of symmetry and symmetry breaking. Symmetry helps us look at each other and recognize each other, recognize me in the other and the other in me. I see you as I see myself. We are different, but held in mirror the world. In practice, this looks like reciprocity, prosociality, fairness and justice, empathy. I can imagine being you, dialogue, not dominance. And when symmetry breaks, we get hierarchy without care, dehumanization, objectification, and other such evils. Relational symmetry in this case is mutual regard. Does not mean sameness. It means equally valid perspectives, needs, and existence. Symmetry between humans is the condition for peace. As Martin Buber would agree, I, thou, not I, it. And this calls us for a lot of corrections. Perhaps symmetry breaking when the previous balance or symmetry was the result of another symmetry breaking, which perhaps led us to a direction that perhaps could be broken, stopped, so that we allow a new direction as human beings. In our relation, human to non-human, animal, plant, mineral world, symmetry perhaps is a synonym to participation, a older form of symmetry, not visual or bodily, but cosmic and ecological. The whale and the human are not symmetrical in shape, but they are symmetrical in being. Both are carriers of life, both embedded in ecosystems of meaning. When we acknowledge the intrinsic value of non-human beings, we restore relational symmetry. Indigenous kinship systems, animals as ancestors or allies, deep ecology and systems thinking, recognizing a sentience, intelligence, and purpose in trees, rivers, bees, whatever. This is not romanticism, it is ontological justice. The moment we treat a forest as a being rather than a resource, we reinstate symmetry. As concerns now the relation between a human and planet, here it is the lens of symmetry as belonging. Symmetry is not balance of power. We cannot overpower Earth, but we can think of the alignment of action and consequence. Earth gives, we take, we give back, she, Earth, regenerates. Symmetry is broken when we extract without reciprocity. When symmetry is honored, we design regeneratively, we act with the long now in mind, and we see ourselves as limbs of the biosphere, not masters of it. Planetary symmetry asks us to slow down, listen, act as part of a coherent whole, not as a disruptive node. To walk symmetrically on Earth is to walk as if our grandchildren are watching. Symmetry in relationships is not static or perfect. It is dynamic, like breath, like heartbeat. It says, I will not reduce you to a function. You are a subject, not an object. Our existence reflects something larger than either of us, and in that we are equals. And that is the completion of this meeting of ours. See you in the next nested conversation. Thank you.